Patrons of the Bloomsbury Theatre, please welcome to the stage your chosen comedian for this evening, Ivo Graham! Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to see my show. It is an absolute pleasure to be doing this. Thank you, one person, for really emphasising that. It's a pleasure for you as well. I love doing stand-up comedy. In October 2020, I did a Freshers' Week comedy gig on Zoom. I'll say that again so the bleakness of it can really fill the auditorium. I did a Freshers' Week comedy gig on Zoom. Pity the freshers of 2020. A tough year to be any age, I think, but particularly to be 18, not getting to finish school with any proper parties or music festivals or holidays. Your exam results jeopardised by the government, and you finally get to university, and it's essentially a full-price prison camp. And yet, to stare into the gallery view of the St Andrews University Freshers' Week Zoom comedy night, it still felt pretty loud and clear like I was the worst bit of the whole thing as far as they were concerned. And I know that because most of them looked quite bored and confused in front of their laptops, and one of them had really voted with his feet by spending the entirety of my 20-minute set on the other side of his kitchen, visibly cooking a risotto. You can't help but take that as something of a slap in the face. Made me feel embarrassed, made me feel old as well, still a relatively youthful 31 years old, but never had I felt further removed from the tedious maturity of Gen Z than watching an 18-year-old rustling up a risotto in supposedly the craziest week of his life so far. I'm aware Freshers' Week 2020 had less going for it than previous years, but nonetheless, you're sending a pretty strong message to the rest of the intake when you're crushing your cloves on night 2 on Zoom. While I begged a child to rush his dinner for me. The dignity of the enterprise, saying increasingly desperate things like, couldn't you just pour all the stock in at once? To which he replied, but then it won't cream. Fair play. Another knife to my heart, but undeniably strong cooking advice. I haven't known most of you very long, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I would hate for any of your risottos to go uncreamed on my time. I would describe that still as only the second most stressful video conference of my pandemic. The most stressful was in April 2021 when I took part in a podcast that was being live streamed on the internet while staying at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Hull. And I made the mistake of revealing on the live stream podcast that I was at the time staying at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Hull, causing some very amusing viewers of the live stream podcast to call my room immediately at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Hull, and in one extremely creative piece of banter, to send bananas and yogurt to my room at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Hull via an Asda home delivery. I had an only semi-exaggerated and extremely potassium-heavy breakdown, and very little sleep before the following morning I was due to interview local football hero Dean Windass about his mental health on a pedalo boat for the first episode of a travel show which has not been recommissioned by the Dave Channel. So those are a couple of high points from the last few years of my life. And a lot of the story I'm going to tell you tonight is set in 2020, 2021. It's not meant to be a sort of COVID or a pandemic show, but inevitably it is in and amongst it. I got COVID in January 2022, not a very historically interesting time to get it. And also I was lucky for 2 reasons. Number 1, that my symptoms were mild, and number 2, that I got to isolate at home during the first week of the Wordle puzzle craze. So I struggle to describe it as an entirely bad time in my life. If you don't know what the Wordle puzzle is, by the way, congratulations on your busy and fulfilled years. I don't know what you were doing with your time, but it was a lot more interesting than the rest of us trying to guess different 5-letter words on the internet every single day for no reason at all. Bored nerds dying alone. Just a few of my guesses from this morning. Structurally, that works okay as a joke, but as a Wordle strategy, it is all over the shop. I enjoyed doing the Wordle puzzle in my isolation, and then continued to do so after my isolation. In March of last year, I got caught doing the Wordle puzzle in a nightclub. Not a hugely strong moment, but obviously you'll understand if you know that the new Wordle goes live at midnight. So if you are up past midnight, that box-fresh new Wordle's going to be burning a hole in your pocket, let me tell you. It was Wordle on the dance floor. The cover version that Sophie Ellis-Bextor refuses to clear, no matter how many alternative lyrics I send to her management. Gotta fill those goddamn vowels right in. It scans. Don't you tell me it doesn't scan. I do enjoy going out on the town with my friends. It's just that most of my Friday and Saturday nights are spent driving around the country doing stand-up comedy. So I am still partying. I'm just partying on my own, in my car, listening to Radio 1. Listening to Radio 1 and their curious mélange of throbbing drum and bass with some of the most tedious texts ever committed to iMessage. People texting into Radio 1 on a Friday night to say that they're not able to go out tonight, but all of these banging tunes are making them wish that they could. What a pathetic community of people that is. Shame on you if you're amongst that number. Annie Mac doesn't care about your coursework. She pretends to care and then she plays an even more banging tune. Is that compassion? Not in my dictionary. Don't get me wrong, I've felt the same, just never felt the urge to get in touch. Never gonna text in and say, "Oh, Pete Tong, I'm meant to be going to the Cardiff Glee Club tonight, but if these beats get any sicker, I'm just gonna pull into memory services and do a line off the dashboard." I like to imagine Classic FM having the opposite problem. People texting into Classic FM on a Friday night saying they're meant to be going out with the boys tonight, but all of this lit Vivaldi's making them want to sack it off. If this sonata slaps any harder, they're going to cancel the Uber and start on a Coco van. My favourite part of every Friday night is a tweet that I receive from my favourite Twitter account telling me that it's now the weekend. The Twitter account is called Ladies and Gentlemen, The Weekend, and its sole existence is to announce the weekend every Friday night. And the account has over 500,000 followers. The internet is a fascinating place. If you don't know it, perhaps you'd understand more if I told you that the weekend was being announced by none other than Daniel Craig. 007 himself. I don't believe he recorded this content specifically for this purpose. A couple of years ago, while promoting No Time to Die, he was hosting the American variety show Saturday Night Live, where one of his contractual obligations as the host was to introduce a pop star whose stage name is The Weeknd. A couple of you are already fast-forwarding to the fun in your own minds, and I can't say I blame you. Daniel comes out and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, The Weeknd," as any of us would have done in the circumstances. Some legend in their bedroom sees the window of opportunity of a lifetime, clips it up, pops it online, 500,000 disciples gather to worship every week, myself included. I am yet to have a Friday night too good or too shit not to be vastly improved by Daniel telling me it's about to be a different day. He's perfect for the role as well. He's a glamorous international celebrity, but he's got some thank fuck it's Friday energy to him these days. Hope that's not too controversial a thing to say that Daniel Craig looks tired. Who wouldn't look tired on the never-ending promotional trail for the multi-delayed post-COVID release of a James Bond film he didn't even want to be in? Where he wasn't even allowed to bang anyone because it's not those times anymore. Poor old tired Daniel. Running around with a stitch and falling in love and dying like the cuck Bond we all voted for. Fry another yay, his sad eyes seem to say every single week. I was, ladies and gentlemen, the weekending it pretty hard on a stag do shortly after the end of lockdown 3. Now, because all of the people involved have been trapped indoors for so long, and this was most of our first party, I don't need to tell you that the energy on the stag do WhatsApp group in the days and weeks leading up to it had been, even by stag do WhatsApp group standards, deliciously toxic throughout. Pint emojis flying back and forth. The single pint emoji and its cheeky cousin, the double clanking pint emoji, all president correct.